Today we are going to talk about social strategy. Strategists get a bad rap because a lot of people feel like it's just someone that comes into your company and yaps without actually knowing what they're doing. But your brand needs a social strategy. You need to separate content that works from content that doesn't, and actually think through what you're going to do to stand out from everyone doing the same things on the algorithms. In this video, we're going to talk through a few examples of social strategy. We have plenty that we love, and then we're actually going to go do kind of a deep dive with some of our friends in the city around the strategy that they do. So you have a bunch of great examples that you've pulled up when we talk about brands that are treating social more like television, more like film. You want to walk through one of those?
Some of the best examples of this at play right now are utilizing this idea of social shows within their campaigns and collections. Morehouse is a Swedish footwear brand that's been creative directed. That's hired creative director Laurent Laporte to create these little scenes and skits by utilizing the same product in different settings and make it somehow feel more interesting than it should.
With an example like that, it's you're making similar content to what you consider social content, but by just adding that like thematic element, by treating it a little more like a series, you see it has like a lift above what a normal brand would do.
Another great example that you've referenced previously is Brooklyn Coffee Company.
Yeah, and since we are here filming this live from Brooklyn, it's a good one to bring up. But they've basically treated their Instagram account almost like recurring skits. They have a set where someone comes into the coffee shop. They have this kind of surreal, futuristic, like oddball element to it. Influencers will come in and visit, and there's this kind of big joke element where you want to watch and see whatever chaos unfolds. These examples I love because it's like a Danish footwear company. It's a coffee shop like here in Brooklyn. This isn't huge high production stuff. We talked about On, and we talked about the Weve, we talked about Burberry. Those are big brands. These are smaller people who've said by making intentional social strategy decisions, we can stand out and far above our weight class and our budgets sheerly with creativity. And that's the stuff that we absolutely love to see. There are a few big brands doing excellent stuff as well. You want to talk a bit about Essence?
Essence is the perfect example of a brand that knows thy customer, and they've done a really good job at utilizing social content, whether it's their over-the-top weird memes to create relatability, to their well-produced short series, their short video series, to create an aesthetic around the brand that makes it more interesting for people who are watching. The use of internet culture and memery within their products has been a really compelling way for them to both grow their brand and also drive more sales.
And to get tactical on this, I think some of the things we really love is if you are a brand and you look at, we should have an idea of a thematic recurring series. That's one thing. We should also utilize all the mediums you have available. And people will just think, oh, we can do videos, we can do carousels, we can do interviews. Memes is an excellent one. And these are one of the good examples of a serious brand with their own brand guidelines, their own look and feel, can embrace the idea of a shareable internet joke and run with it. Today, we're going to go actually visit Pop-Up Grocer, which is a store here in New York City, known for emerging CPG brands, with a social strategist who actually works with a number of the brands in there and talk through all the things that are happening while also exploring some of the other concepts and ideas of social strategy around the city. And we're excited for y'all to come on a ride with us. Let's do it. All right, so we are here at what some will call the heart of East Coast Snacky Snacks Pop-Up Grocer, where as you can see, there's a full aesthetic selection of basically every kind of beverage, snack, accessory, accoutrement that you could humanly think of. And we're here with Kendall, who actually works with a number of brands that are here to talk a bit about social media strategy, creative strategy for new and emerging brands like this. So Kendall, we'd love to just get a little bit of your background, what it is you do.
First off, thanks for having me.
Of course.
So basically what I do is like work with a lot of social brands in the CPG space and the direct-to-consumer space. So obviously a lot of brands like Oren kind of mentioned, whether it's like beverage or whether it's some of these cool food brands that we have over here. So I usually help with their social strategy, whether it's like go to market or whether they're a legacy brand that just needs like a re-up of sorts. And then same on the influencer front, like how can we just get it everywhere is pretty much the goal.
And so I think we should dive into packaging for 1 second because you work with a brand that many people know that has a relatively controversial, not controversial, but has a notorious package, and that is the Grocer olive oil. So you want to tell us a little bit about what you worked on with them and kind of what that looked like?
So I did all the go-to-market. So that launched in, oh my gosh, January of 2022. So it's only 3 years old. So go-to-market strategy for social, go-to-market for influencer. It had no say on the branding, but the branding agency, shout out Gander, made it very easy for me to like basically do my job and kind of just like see what you can do with something that's like a play on something that's been around, very highly commoditized, but just find a way to like present it in a new medium and format made it really easy.
And so if you're going to market for a brand like that, what is the process that you engage with to be like, all right, let's make this as good as we can?
My first question is how much product can you give me?
So you do a lot of gifting, right?
A lot of gifting, and then also like what assets can you give me? What do we know is like planned, scheduled, what isn't? Do they have a brand guide? Do they not have a brand guide? There's so many brands that like don't even have one. Yeah.
Listen, if you love a brand, something I'll say out there, you
Please
should be
help
going and
them.
merchandising whenever you go to a store.
Yeah.
Mr. Beast asks his fans to do it.
No.
That means you can't do it. All right.
Okay, so this is Flora. This is basically they call it a fruit crush bar, but it is a like fiber bar that essentially like is made with all like the rinds and stuff of like fruit. So mostly like apple, watermelon rind. It's actually by the founder of Jenny's Ice Cream. So it's kind
Pretty
of
solid
like,
pedigree to start with.
yeah. So it's kind of like a way different play on what she's usually done, right? In terms of like going from ice cream to something like this. This is their rebrand.
Yeah.
So the packaging before, I don't know, we can throw up a photo or something.
We will, yeah.
In post. But I mean, it's day and night.
Yeah.
Like completely.
And so what is it when, so you working with them, like what does that process entail?
That was pretty much like, hey, we're having all these issues with like social in terms of like getting it to creators. People aren't posting it. People love it, but it's just not like pretty enough. And then also, how do we educate? Because like everyone wants to talk about fiber.
And so how do you solve that problem? Is that like in a brief? Is that in
It's a
it
brief.
is, yeah.
It's kind of in a brief, but it's also just like, here's the whole, rebuilt all the whole strategy. What platforms are we on? What mediums are we using per platform? What are like video concepts that we can do tomorrow? What are briefs that they could integrate? Like literally, what is the difference between soluble and insoluble fiber? People don't know that. Like the very like broad stuff that
I'm
like
just picturing
people
like a
assume.
snack influencer being like, let me break down the difference between soluble and insoluble fiber.
3 reasons why.
That's going to crush on TikTok.
Yeah.
And so with this, how do you come up with the, you have to work through all this, you have so many briefs I'm sure that you have to do for like all these different brands. Like
Yeah.
how do you find inspiration? Like how do you stay current on the stuff that's happening?
I look outside the niche that I'm in.
Amen.
So if I'm in food, I mean like food and bev are like very similar, but they're different. Usually I would say for food, I look at fashion. I weirdly look at video game companies.
Look
Like
at a
the
video game
whole-
company. Like, what's an example of something you're taking from that? Or
Oh,
like, well, it's
man.
an insight we can get, a human
Could-
insight.
Sometimes it's just like form factor in terms of the content that they're creating. Like maybe it's like a play on an old video game and how can you kind of like bring that to life. Or if you even like a TV, like Grocer just did a Severance video
Yeah.
and it crushed.
Which is, yeah, amazing. Yeah.
But it was just like, let's just redo this with costumes. Like, so it's like, even if it's just going to like movie or TV or anything like that, it's super helpful. But like, even looking at like home, like there's so much to just kind of see like how people, how people are kind of like doing things in terms of, you know, like even dog food brands. But you look at people, you look at people like Serena Kerrigan, who started like card games that are obviously now in a grocery store, or like Counterpart. I just got mine yesterday. I love it.
wow.
It's in my bag.
The aesthetic home goods market, one of my favorites.
But it's like even stuff like this, like I think their team does a good job at like what are the things that this does and doesn't do. With like Let's Fucking Date and like all these, like she was just able to come up with like really good briefs overall for herself and then find a way to like bridge partnerships out of these card games.
With that, like you're seeding, are you marking, okay, here's all the addresses, here's who responded to the
Yeah.
post, here's who actually posted it, these people are communicative, like what's the thing that makes that useful and actionable for you?
It is a mix of like which addresses do we just have, and we know that like what niche are they in. So if we have a product launch, say for snacks, like Grocer launching potato chips, right?
Yeah.
Like
Disappointed I was not on the seeding list for this,
Okay.
but that's fine. So yeah.
There's another round.
Yeah, you're good. I'm done. Yeah.
Basically what we would do for that is like go through the list, see the people who are the diehards, like who's posted multitudes of times, and then also like who is a snacky person, right? Like do they post reviews of snacks? Did we like kind of get those people in the mix? But I also am like, it's so hard to do your seeding in advance.
Yeah.
So I'm very like, see something, say something, and then build, and then add to the list.
Yeah, and so when you're going about like launching a new brand, having a new campaign, going through putting together a seeding list, what does that process look like?
A lot of like happy chaos. It's usually like a hit on, okay, if we know, let's use product launch, if you know the product is launching, who are the niches that applies to, and then literally build like the biggest list possible and then skim it down or break it up into tiers. So same thing with like Raza chips, it was like tier 1, tier 2, and then like see something, say something. But I always have an always on solution. How I think about it is like you're always seeding, but for that month it might be community oriented. So like might only want to send to like
Or just to customers, or just the other, like, yeah.
Yeah, and then like, but you're still having this like, okay, if we scroll on someone that's really good, like we're just gonna send it to
And
them.
so is this like, is seeding like integrated into like, is the social team responsible, the marketing team responsible? I know
Such
it's
a
all
great
over, but yeah.
question.
Yeah, we're here, we're really in the mix here,
I was
yeah.
gonna say. The social.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that like every single time that I am tasked with being on a social account, I usually take over influencer just because it makes sense. You have to see if they're posting or not, and if you don't have the say in that, it's kind of like the biggest disconnect ever. So.
We won't interrogate you for too much longer, but the one of the last ones I think is just any tips for a good brief. And we kind of asked that because one of the biggest things we've done with talking to these brands is they're like, we are briefing so much. We have so many ideas, so many campaigns, influencer versus UGCs, whatever, and like any insights to like make that process any better or like things that came out cool. I think people would love to hear it.
I would say that is where I do use a project management tool.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Wait, anything in particular or any shout outs you want to give?
Shout out Asana, shout out Air.
Yeah. Hey, let's go. Yeah.
Air because of I need a place to put it all, but then also because I need, if I'm working with a ton of like outsiders, aka creators, agencies, everything, like content collection form, full
Way to make them feel not part of the team,
now.
but yeah.
But Asana, just because it's like if you have an internal team for content, I rather just be able to put it all in one place for visibility. So I'm able to like have internal content. These are like the weird quirky reels that we want to do. This is the day it's due. This is the sizing. This is the inspo. This is everything. It's just very simple. It doesn't need to be super like complicated.
Makes sense.
I rather pay the extra $10 to like add someone in for a seat versus like rogue emails and like random links and like disorganization. So yeah.
So
Shout out
Darkroom, who's on a
Sauce.
different episode of this, Darkroom
Yeah.
did this ID, so shout out to them.
Nice. I think also it's like there's so many different form like packaging wise.
It's funny.
Yes.
It's
I
also
know.
funny seeing Big Face in
know,
stores, and I also think his packaging is excellent. And a big shout out to my friend Devin at Magnum Opus, who did, was a friend of Hyper, who did the merchandising and stuff for their clothing.
Like I think
yeah.
also it's like I don't know. There's just so many. I find like now it's a mix of branding, but it's also form factor. Like this, edgy veggies, the sprinkles.
Oh yeah.
Like and then like.
Well, also there's this whole like, what is it? Like that's a whole different.
And then same with love. Like you're like.
But I do feel like when I get
sampler
into.
pack of salad dressing. Like,
Yeah,
what
that's a whole
does
new
that
game.
mean? Like.
Well, you can do that here, versus like that wouldn't work in a traditional grocer.
Yes.
But I do love I just like.
I love
We
it. I
talk
didn't
so
even
much.
see that.
I worked in retail for a good chunk of my life, and it's all about like first pickup. Is like. You go first pickup and you go flip, and most people first pickup and they don't even flip. But like if you can just survive to get to first pickup, it's like 80% of the
like,
battle.
pretty good.
Whereas something like this, where it's like, cool, if this is on a noodle shelf, like this is probably my first pickup, and that's a win.
Yeah,
you know?
or it's like right Kaizen. It's like you see 24 grams of protein, and everyone knows the hype right now, and you're kind of just like.
But they are super smart in here. There's not a single price overlay
I know,
tag
yeah,
because
never.
that's a pickup prevention tool, right? Where like the combination of package and price is whether or not it gets picked up. And here they've removed that entirely from the conversation. So shout out Pop-Up Grocer. yeah. If you ever want like you want a luxury berry. See, they don't make these in Canada. These from Canada, so it's It's $49 for these.
Really
Brother. Yeah, I don't know how that translates to in Canadian, but like,
lot.
yeah, it's like a mortgage in Toronto, right? Yeah, I can get a house in Winnipeg for this shit.
So, I guess this is like a shared office between Creature World and Welcome. I guess I can show you guys a little bit about some of the things we've been working on. This was at Complex Con. It's a chessboard made by an artist named Apartment 107. And literally, I mean, the pieces are a little misconstrued, but
I'm trying to find
literally the whole thing is made out of bolts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have this. We recently made this magazine that we were talking about.
We're gonna sit down for a quick game shortly after. Oh yeah, yes.
This is like a magazine, more info. Literally, all of the posts from Welcome 2024 in one book.
Those are sold out though.
Sold out, unfortunately.
Cool. So if I disappear with that one.
Yeah.
The last copy.
Got it. There's like a wall just of random trinkets as well. So like board games made by our friends, sculptures, some cool tech that probably won't ever make it.
2-2.
Yeah.
That's Osama bin Laden. Let's go.
Yeah, that's Mark Zuckerberg. It's actually crazy.
All right, scratch chess. We were doing Guess Who too.
So yeah, that's this space. We got some art from like friends again. Really, in the next year, if you guys do ever come back, the space is going to be having a lot more organization, a lot more art, and that's kind of like the goal for sure. Not I'm in New York.
More art. Yeah.
More art.
It's already hitting a pretty high art per square foot.
Yeah.
What's the most interesting thing that's come out of that large format printer?
Nothing yet, actually.
All
We
right.
haven't printed anything. We've got some books. This is like Danny's collection, but I go through this very, very often. He has a lot of good books. Like this is.
Any particulars?
Yeah. I mean, hate to be cliche and obvious, but this is a really good one.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
Where's the Rick Rubin book?
Yeah, he's not a full stereotype. He's only a Deuteron stereotype.
You talk about the Creative Act one? I read that was a good book. It was a really good book. Got the Marcos Alvarado sculpture that was also part of the first Welcome drop. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That was Complex Con too.
Yeah. And honestly, this is one of my favorite pieces. It's an artist named Life Jones. He made this cat sculpture, tattooed cat. It was a dead cat that he got a mold of.
I like to think he's sleeping, but
Yeah, I hate to be morbid, that's what it is.
I did text that to my wife, and she's like, "That's not real." It's incredible.
It's insane. He has a deer one coming out in like 2-3 weeks, which is gonna be crazy. I saw it. It's like insane.
Like full size.
Full size.
Let's go.
Full size deer.
See, that's the kind of ambition I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, this is the space. This is the spot. We have a balcony outside where we go vibe out, team meetings and shit. If you guys want to go out.
Catch a very cold vibe real quick.
And that's pretty much it. And yeah, this is a roof that you could walk on, but
It's a glimpse of old New York,
Yeah.
It's just before the Hermes condos, there was this.
Exactly.
Yo, Alex, thanks for having us here. It's good to be in the Creature World studio. Welcome JPEG is a proper institution on the internet these days, but you've been working on it for a really long time. And I think what's interesting about the Welcome JPEG stuff is it's sort of come at a time when it feels like so many people are trying to aggregate and repost and sort of rip from other accounts. But I think you're one of the few accounts on the internet that has a strong eye for curation and how to tell good stories through art and the culture. And I'm just curious, like, where that comes from for you and how it's kind of influenced over the years in the brand.
All honestly started just as like a personal mood board page for myself in college. I would sit in the library, go through like 20, 30 books at a time, old magazines, old art books, all this stuff. Certain notable creators started interacting with it, reposting it on story, and it kind of just blew up from there. And now you see this whole wave of like all these other pages like you're talking about. And I think like the main thing for me has been trying to keep my voice in it, because it's very easy as you grow to get caught up in the cycle of like, trying to continue to grow.
Yeah.
And like there is pages that pop up and you're like, okay, now there's data behind certain posts. Like you can look at someone else's account and be like, they have 20K followers, they have like all these posts, this post blew up on their page, it'll probably do really well on my page. Really the biggest challenge has been staying authentic. And like, I feel like I've done a good job at that, and like, I hope I can continue to do that in the space. And curation to me is really just like, whatever information I take in, I'm like the filter for whatever should be put out onto Welcome. And that's kind of how I treat it. It's very personal.
Yeah. Again, it's hard to find people who are committed to the long term of preserving cultural pieces. Speaking more specifically about the research process, the curation process, do you have like a philosophy or a way that you go about it? Because obviously you're scanning stuff on the mood boards like all day, every day. I'm sure you have your archives and where you store things, but what's your process like for finding things, researching stuff, and then eventually posting it?
Typically, I start on the main curated social platform. So I'll hit Tumblr, I'll hit Pinterest. I kind of just start casually scrolling there. If like one image catches my eye, a lot of the places that I'm scrolling, they don't have any context on those images. It's not like it tells you who
That's
the
always the
artist
hard
is.
thing.
Yeah, so I'd like reverse image search, dive deeper into what it is, and see if I can build some kind of context behind this thing that I found. And sometimes it's as simple as like a conversation with a friend. Like, I'm surrounded by so many creatives at this point. Someone might tell me about, Richard Prince, he did this one performance art piece that I might have never heard of, or you won't even find it through just scrolling on Tumblr. And so it's really either Google searching things that I hear in conversation, or just like starting with like the biggest, widest net, which is like, you hit Tumblr, you hit Pinterest, you hit Arena, see what catches your eye. And I'm very visceral. Like how I treat it is like, if it catches my eye, that means it'll catch a lot of other people's eyes. And then that's when I deep dive into actually providing the context for it.
We're living in a time that feels very convoluted when it comes to content. It feels like there's so much stuff out there. There's not enough people like you who are actually out there sifting through the noise, curating information in a tasteful way, and also providing context for stuff. Like, again, people posting images without any context. You can find this on Pinterest, but also see a lot of it on Instagram. There's a sense of what you're doing that's almost like preserving pieces of art, artifacts, archives, cultural moments throughout history that do mean something. And that's got to be really hard, but how do you see your role in all that?
I always joke with my friends. I've been like just recently talking about this with them. Like we kind of, with this whole archive page movement, you can call it, brought like Tumblr back onto Instagram for like a whole new generation of people
100%.
that never used Tumblr. And I feel like that in itself has sparked so many people to start sampling and referencing that stuff. And we see it in music, we see it in art, we see it in fashion. Like so much of what we're seeing now feels like it stemmed from that initial seed of archive pages, planting it into the youth's mind
Yeah.
for them to go on and take that and run with it and continue the ball rolling. So really, that is like the biggest mission, and I feel like we've done a good job at it. And I feel like in general, not only Welcome, but a lot of these pages have provided so much context and set this foundational layer. And like you said, very easily organized information that allows musicians and fine artists and stylists to be able to just come in, take from there, and better their work.
In this series, we've been talking a lot about creative strategy, a lot about how teams manage their brand plans and their marketing plans. And we've been doing this with Air, who have a lot of actual workflows around how brands manage those assets and use them. But to talk about some of the real issues brands face, we brought in Sarah. Sarah, you want to give a bit of a background around what you do and why we'll be talking today?
Yeah, for sure. So I work on the customer team at Air. I've been with the team for about 3 years, specializing in helping our customers get up and running on the product, establishing their workflows, best practices, all the things, just to make sure they're getting the most out of the product.
And so for some people that may not know, so like Air is a pretty significant sized organization. You work with companies of all types. What does some of the clientele look like? What do they do? What kind of teams do you work with?
So, we primarily work in the marketing and creative teams, but in terms of like the industries we serve, it really ranges. Everything from education to B2C to more established enterprise organizations. So it really runs the gamut. We kind of have the frame that every company is a media company. So really it's a vast kind of group of people we serve.
Since you see teams all the way from kind of small to enterprise, are their problems significantly different? Are they kind of the same? Like what are their creative challenges they're dealing with?
Yeah, it's pretty funny because I think that when I work with smaller teams and the larger teams, they kind of all come to the table really thinking a lot of the things they're running into or maybe personal to their organization. And when I look at a high level kind of across the board, what are like the common pain points and things teams are going through, it's really the same across all of that. All kind of the teams that I'm dealing with have no shortage of content, in their arsenal. But the challenge is how they can navigate maintaining the flow of production for their day-to-day work. Also still kind of keep that historical record so they're not redoing work they already did, and really kind of scaling with their organization. There's a lot of the same problems across everybody.
So one of the things I like most about Air is you actually do creative work and creative campaigns and things that are really out of the box to market a software product. Things that other creative campaign creators look at and they go, oh, they're actually doing some interesting things. And so our mutual friend Ari, who works at Air, who's responsible for a number of these, has put all of us in some way, shape, or form through some pretty intense experiences. What's one of the most interesting ones you've had to deal with in the Air marketing process?
I was a little reluctant to agree to do this because I wasn't sure what wild take we would have. I feel like the most memorable moment, and I participated in a lot, was a protest we did outside of a real convention that was happening, which I did purchase a ticket to attend and was 86th from said conference because of my involvement in the protest. This feels really normal, and I'm kind of waiting for what's our take
twist?
here.
The Rizzler is actually hiding.
Right. He's gonna pop out something. I don't know, but
Just some context. Well, maybe throw a couple of these on screen. But Air's campaigns, they were protesting outside. Was it like the Ad Age conference or something like that? Or
yeah, we were protesting Dropbox outside of the Ad Week.
Is this the one where there's a bunch of like older people dressed up as older people saying, I don't want to die before my upload?
Yes, exactly. That's the one.
Yeah. Just to give you an idea of some of the creative ways that they are promoting a digital asset management system.
Yeah, we keep it fresh.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming and actually talking about the workflow and how that goes. And excited to see the final product.
Amazing. Thank you.
We've gotten pretty in-depth in this video around what good social media content looks like, around approaches different brands can have, dealing with everything from briefing to influencers. But what are some tactics, what are some useful things every brand should think about? The first is social media team structure. Gone are the days of the social media intern or even the social media manager. Social media is a team. There's a lot of conversation on how does that team scale. So one of the things that I advise all the time for brands is you need to pair social media managers and social media creators. The person managing the accounts should not be the person that's creating all the content. They can help, They can be a part of the process, but there needs to be a more creator-focused, content-focused personality paired with someone who does more of the planning, who's in more of the meetings, who's reviewing the analytics, who's actually doing the publishing. And this kind of yin-yang of those two things together is impactful. Those are very different personality types. And then as you scale, that manager can then add another creator onto there. Once you have 2 creators, you begin to think about having an editor. Once you have 3 creators or people more content focused and an editor or 2, the manager can get complemented by a strategist. As you begin to look at social teams that become to be 5, 10 people large, that's the framework that works rather than trying to find more people that can do it all. The second thing that not enough brands are trying is test and alt accounts. So I encourage every brand to be running a test TikTok account where they're trying things, where they're seeing if they catch organic momentum. Same thing with the trial reels function on Instagram. If you're wondering if a piece of content isn't doing well because it's just your account or it's just your followers versus if it's not good content, that trial reels function is an excellent way to figure it out. Same thing with TikTok. Brand accounts or existing followers sometimes means you can end up in an awkward spot. But having those secondary accounts is a huge thing for testing. And for a lot of brands now, they're running multiple to be able to put different styles of content out there that don't have to be as on brand or solid as a main account. And you'll see these brands that will have a founder account, a main account, a secondary account, potentially in a different language or potentially with a different creator style. And they're beginning to realize that content doesn't all have to be about one post a day on one core brand account on each network. It can be about really diving into the networks that are working and leveraging the fact that small accounts can get outsized amounts of reach, and that really the only goal should be your offline KPIs. How is what you're doing on social driving what your brand actually needs, and not thinking about views or followers or some things that are often just vanity metrics. So I would encourage you to think about all the things we've talked about here. Brands running TV show style stuff on social media, brands integrating founder-led content by using shorts and carousels side by side to tell similar messages. We've talked about a lot of that strategically through this series. I make sure to try to implement some of the things that we've tried. Anyway, thank you for following with us through this approach to social strategy. Thank you to Air for presenting this and the guests that we had. And we have more episodes in this series that you can find on things like art direction and brand strategy that I highly encourage you to check out if you enjoyed this.